you all fruitful deliberations. I thank you.
I would like to say to everyone, welcome as we move towards elevating Africa together.
The truth is, nations need nations to thrive. Africa, though separated by borders, is deeply interconnected. I am an African queen, domiciled in Africa. The very core of me is Africa.
I always say Africa and drums. They go hand in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard from the governor. You heard her message. Africa needs to make it work for itself. Let's give her a round of applause and the people of the beautiful desert country of Namibia. Thank you so much. As you would see, my stage is being reconstructed. And in this reconstruction, we are going to have a panel discussion. Now, this is a panel discussion that's going to discuss creative capital. How is it that we can leverage Africa's creativity? I spoke about the drum. How can we sell the drum to the world? That is something that we're going to be discussing. But before I do proceed, as my good gentlemen here prepare for our panel, kindly allow me to acknowledge the great people at TOF. They are the sponsors of our panel. TOF is more than a philanthropical organization. It's a movement shaping how creativity, culture, opportunity across the African continent. It is founded by the great Osahan Okumbu, who has built a simple but radical idea that when you create the right environment, people rise to meet that potential. At its core, TOF exists to bridge potential and purpose through its 4 creative pillars: art, film, entertainment, and fashion. The foundation empowers talent, funds projects, and builds platforms that turn possibility into progress. Whether it's supporting emerging artists at +234 Art Fair, funding writer labs through the TOF X Write Good Stories workshops or workrooms, or creating spaces for collaboration and mentorship, TOF works in shifting the creative landscape from inspiration to infrastructure. They are rooted in excellence, driven by faith and guided by purpose. TOF believes that creativity is not a luxury, it's a national resource. Every initiative from art patronage to film development is designed to nurture capacity, create access, and ensure that African stories, talents, and ideas are not just celebrated, but sustained. Let's give a big round of applause to the great people at TOF. Thank you so much for sponsoring this conference and this panel. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, and no further ado, kindly allow me to invite my panel moderator and host. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the editor-in-chief at She Afrique, Natasha Dlamini. Thank you, Natasha, for joining us. Natasha will be joined by a strong panel of Pan-Africanists from all over the world. With no particular order, kindly allow me to invite Busi Matisco, President of the New York African Chamber of Commerce. He'll be joined by Kyle Griffin, Director of Guild of America. They will be joined by Nicole Asinugu, Director Partnership and Sponsorship at TOF. Further joined by actor Butch Franklin. Butch, please do join us. They're joined from Global Venture Partners, GVP Investment Group, Jason Cook. Also joined by actor and producer Hakeem Kai Kazim, who will be joining this panel. And last but not least, Moki Makura, Executive Director at Africa No Filter.
Brother Lee,
Over
you
to
don't
you,
forgive
my
me,
lady.
of course. Brother, take my back. Take my back, I'll protect you, don't worry. I'm not a grace. I'm not in fear. You don't know me. What are you waiting for? Take my protect you. Me no say you don't fall. I shoot for church. But you know your boys. Anytime I dream, just
Good morning, good morning. Let's start by structuring this conversation. Africa has been defined by its rich cultural heritage, dynamic storytelling, and creativity. From the pulsing sounds of Afrobeats and Amapiano to the striking visuals of Nollywood, we, as the African creatives, have captured global attention. Listen. Not only has the creative industry done this, but it has also contributed immensely to the global GDP. Yet, this sector remains underfunded, under-recognized, and fragmented. Today, we will go beyond the conversation and turn the next page. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce and welcome my panel. Let's give them a round of applause. Moki, I'm going to start with you. You're the founder of Africa No Filter. I want to understand how it has shaped the Continental's creative output.
Great. Well, thank you, Natasha. I don't think this is on. Can everyone hear me?
No.
Is that one on? Hello. Great. Okay, well, thank you, Natasha, for that question, and thank you to Her Majesties for having us here. Africa No Filter is a narrative change organization. That's the organization I lead. And we're trying to change the way the world sees Africa, but more importantly, how we see ourselves. And in order to change narratives, we need to work with storytellers. So we work with the creative industries. We're primarily an advocacy organization, so we campaign for better representation for Africa. And we do that through evidence. One of the things we published was a report that showed that the stereotypical images and stories told about the continent across global media cost us, as a continent, $4.2 billion every year. That money could educate 12 million children. So it has an impact. The other thing we do is that we have a community of creatives. And once they're in our community, we give grants, we support them, help them be better business people as creatives. And to date, Africa No Filter has put $7.5 million into the creative economy in Africa. And that's a figure I'm very proud of, because creativity in Africa is not well rewarded. So I think that if we are serious about changing the way the world sees us, we need to invest in the sector that creates the stories that influence and inspire the world to see us differently. That's what we do.
Thank you, Moki, for that. It is very important for us to know that when we control the narrative, somehow we can control the perception. Speaking of re-scripting our stories, Nicole. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
So, Nicole, you are a screenwriter and a filmmaker. And we understand that narratives are shaped mostly in the writing rooms. My question is, how can film and storytelling reshape Africa's global narrative?
Thank you for the question. Good morning, everyone. I think that storytelling is the foundation of how we see ourselves. It's how nations have used as national branding and perception. I'll give the US as an example. A lot of people know about, without even going to the US, you know about the CIA and the FBI and all these institutions. And that's because of American films.
Yeah.
And I think that the beginning of perception starts with stories. So just like Moki had said, a lot of the negative perceptions are perpetrated by films. And so what's really important is for us to look at the kind of stories that we're telling, look at the kind of characters that we're developing. I think a lot of times, especially I can speak for Nollywood, we've advanced when it comes to cameras, we've advanced when it comes to the quality of the content, but when it comes to the messaging, when it comes to the thematic objectives, I think sometimes we lack that, so it's really, really important. And I also think it's about agency. And so with the Osaho Okomba Foundation, one of the things that we wanted to do is to empower creatives. But what does that mean to empower someone? And so if you look at the root definition of empowerment, it means to give authority. And so if young people don't realize that they actually have that authority within themselves, that the stories that they're telling could actually change the perception of an entire nation, they won't come to the table with that sense of self. So we need to start with that. We need to let them know that it's not just an idea. It's not just a story. It can literally change the way we look at an entire country. And that's very, very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. After we have told our stories, we need actors to tell the stories. So my next panelist is Hakim. Hakim, my question to you is, you are an actor and a producer, and you have had the opportunity to work in the continent and in Hollywood as well. How have you managed to scale your talent to a career?
Thank you. Testing 1, 2. Thank you, Your Majesties. Thank you very much for having me. I started off as an actor in the United Kingdom, and then I went on to South Africa and did movies like Hotel Rwanda, Pirates of the Caribbean, Wolverine, things like that. And I then went on to do production, doing films like Man on Ground, doing films like the one I've just done, It's the Blackness. Now, the transformation for me was about being able to tell our story. It's very important for us to be able to tell our story from our perspective. Now, going to Nollywood, what I saw at the beginning of Nollywood was that this came from a street level, that Nollywood was self-grown, self-evolved. It came from roots, it came from a truth, a deep truth. And on that truth, the world embraced that truth. The same thing with Afrobeats. Afrobeats came from the street. It didn't come from America, it came from Africa. And it came with a truth that resonated on a world and a global level. So my point here is that we must tell our stories from our own perspective. What I'm finding now, what I'm seeing now is that the Nollywoods are beginning to do stories that don't really have our truth. They're beginning to echo an American sort of gangsters on the streets, armed robbers in the middle of Lagos, and which are all that has its value, but the world embraced us because we were telling our stories with from our own perspective. So my transformation into becoming a director was to help tell the African narrative from an African perspective. For me, we will only progress when we begin to embrace ourselves in our wholeness, that we tell our stories in our way, that we tell our music in our way. It's so important. And then we have a scope for for the world to embrace us. I mean, now you've got, in Brazil, for example, there's a young girl who's been watching Nollywood movies and has embraced the whole idea of Nollywood. There's a guy in Paris who's a fashion designer who's seen I don't know, a South African sci-fi and is embraced in his fashion, South African sci-fi. That is our cultural power, which we must embrace. And being here is not about talking about what we must do, but it's about finding real solid solutions. How do we practically make this shift? This is what we must all go home with. How do we practically make this shift? Yes, we need government, we need boots on the ground. Yes, we need to educate our future filmmakers. But how do we practically put that into consideration?
Thank you, Hakeem. Thank you. As we are still talking about the Nollywood film industry, I'll go to Buchi. My question to you is, you are a seasoned actor in Nollywood. How can we improve our infrastructure for the African creatives economy to reach its potential?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, Your Majesty. Demalan, Botswana. Thank you very much. First off, before I answer your question, I'm going to come back to you. I want to piggyback off what my brother said about storytelling in Nollywood, because that's how I pay my tithe. I mean, yes, we do have storytellers that are not telling the right story, you know, not being authentic, not being original about the films that they're putting out. But I come from a crop, a sect of filmmakers that are doing justice to Nigerian stories, to African stories. Please, you can clap for us, yeah? Thank you very much. The likes of Kemi Adetiba Hemenaka, the likes of Kunle Afolayan, you know, the list is endless. And these filmmakers are sticking true to the story. How are we going to get money? Let's use the right words. When you say investments, it's all over the place. We need money to tell our stories right. We have great filmmakers. We have amazing actors. Nice to meet you. We have amazing screenwriters, directors. What I would say is this, right? Before you put your money into anything, you need proof, right? There's Netflix, there's Amazon. Watch To Kill a Monkey. Watch Rattlesnake. Nicola Sinigo wrote Rattlesnake. It was directed by Ramsey Noah. There are a lot of beautiful, interesting, intriguing Nigerian films out there on different platforms that will give you that push, that nudge that you need as an investor to put money down so that we can tell our stories the way we want to tell it, so that we don't have our brothers and sisters across the ocean telling our stories when we can do justice to our own stories. Thank you very much.
Okay. Jason, I'm coming to you. Buchi spoke about financing, and we know that in order for our stories to be heard, we need the money. He said we should not use the word investment. Let's be straightforward, we need the money. My question is, what is Global Venture Partners, and how has it supported the creative industry in Africa?
Thank you to Your Excellencies for having us, Your Majesty, Excellencies, and esteemed guests. It's a great question. Global Venture Partners stands at the intersection of culture and that capital. And I will mirror the sentiment of my two brothers here and what they've said in terms of being able to control the narrative and tell your own story, and why it's so deeply important, which is why we started with media. Across our media portfolio, we have Rolling Stone Media, cultural leader in terms of Middle East to North Africa. We also have Rappaport Africa, and that highlights African lifestyle and luxury and exports it, amplifies it to the world. More importantly, we have Time Africa, which is deeply crucial in terms of telling a story from a leadership, from people in an innovative standpoint, and Billboard Africa. Now, from a commercial and investment standpoint, Billboard invested over $6.5 million with Botswana, the CEO of BITC, Kells, and that was orchestrated by Ms. Pat Danby. And we did that across Billboard Global Power Players, and we were able to provide Thames with a Diamond Award. More importantly, we had Amansel Brown, which is a notable Botswanan artist. She performed on one of the biggest international stages for a Botswanan artist ever. Now, I say that to say this. Controlling the narrative and being able to tell that story then filters into investment, because just a few short weeks later, Qatar announced a proposed $12 billion investment into Botswana. Yeah, you can clap for that too. It's fantastic. So I'm not going to say that that was solely based on GDP, but I will say amplification and media value is important to drive foreign direct investment, and equally important as diasporic direct investment. And we look to create a circular economy that filters into each other. With that being said, media then filters into financial services. We'll have the first digital bank in Rwandan history, which we look to launch by 2026. And that lends itself into infrastructure, where we proposed a $200 million investment into Gaborone to build an indoor stadium, as we're looking to invest. And we're partnering and in talks with NBA and NBA Africa to purchase one of the first permanent NBA teams in Africa.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I'd like to ask him a question, because I'm excited that we're doing a lot for my brothers and sisters in Botswana.
Right.
Have you been to Nigeria?
He put me on the spot. Nigeria is a foundation which we look to partner and collaborate with the likes of yourself and others who are really leading that conversation in terms of culture, in terms of capital, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of business and working together. So Nigeria is absolutely a top priority for Global Venture Partners for 2026.
A round of applause for him, please.
Thank you, Jason. Kayla, intellectual property is an intangible asset. And since it's an asset, we need to protect it. My question is, what have you seen work in Hollywood that we can implement in terms of protecting intellectual property in Africa?
Good morning, and thank you to your majesties for having us here. My name is Kyler Griffin, and I work as a second assistant director in the Directors Guild of America. And as far as protecting intellectual property, especially in Hollywood, I would say the most important thing that we have are our guilds and our unions that protect the workers, the artists, everyone behind the scenes. In 2023, I don't know if you know, but there was a strike in Hollywood because the producers and the actors and the writers couldn't come to an agreement. And one of the most important things that they were trying to protect was AI, and AI coming in and taking the place of actors and writers. And they stuck to their guns, and they struck, and they came to an agreement that next year is now another negotiation year, so I'm sure another round will be coming. But I think the most important thing that we have in Hollywood is our voices. And when we gather around and we make a stand and we tell the producers that they can't just take what we have created as human beings and give it to AI or let a program create what we do, I think that is the most important strength that we have, coming together, collective bargaining, and making sure that even though we are in different organizations and different sects of the Hollywood sphere, that we stand our ground and we come together. In Hollywood, there's a lot of organizations that protect rights and royalties and making sure that people get paid. But having those protections and making sure that they're reinforced here in Africa, and especially getting stronger unions and guilds and protections for your people is the most important thing that you can do in order to make sure that your intellectual property isn't taken, especially with AI entering the conversation.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you. Busi, what is the importance of collaboration in the creative industry in Africa?
Thank you, Your Majesties, Excellencies, esteemed guests. Natasha, thank you so much. And to echo what my fellow panelists have said, it's important for us to show up, first of all, as individuals, and however small we can contribute.
Busi, just a minute.
Thank you so much. We will be continuing with this amazing panel. At this stage, Their Majesties will be departing the hall for an engagement. So we will just pause for that, and then we will continue with the panel. Thank you for engaging us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for indulging us. Natasha, back to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sorry, Busi, about that. You can continue.
No, it's okay. Thank you. We had to honor
Yeah.
protocol. My name is Busi Matsiko Anden. My name is Busi Matsiko. I'm the founder and president of the New York Africa Chamber of Commerce. And I'm a board trustee of Berkeley College, which is very big on the creatives. I've been involved in, I've been a proponent of Africa to the world. One of the things I did in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, was having events for indie designers, which morphed into this day's Africa Fashion Week in New York. I've also pushed initiatives with Berkeley College, which is over 95 years old, whereby we created a designer in residence program, and we have had 2 African designers to date. And last year during Fashion Week, it was the first time you had 7 African designers on the official calendar of New York Fashion Week. That said, that's just an example of some of the initiatives where collaboration is important. Afrexim Bank sent a delegation to Berkeley College to support the designers, and they invested in the designers. These are the stories we don't share, and that's why it's important for us to use platforms to collaborate. I was fortunate that last year I was here with Forbes, and I met the GVP team as well. And later on, I'm also now doing an event alongside the G20 with Time Africa, because we need to shape our narrative from our perspective, not just a blanket perception of what our story should be like. So, and that's, for us, our intention of that is to showcase what happens beyond the G20. Some people, while you might say, why the G20? It's important that we show up in different rooms. Our voices should be heard. And it's important for us to be intentional and deliberate in our collaborations, not just self-serving relationships. And we should bring the youth into these conversations. We need to have those voices. We need to have the intergenerational dialogue. When we see countries like Israel, India, China growing, it's because they have tapped into their diaspora. It's important that the diaspora works with the people in the continents. We are a part of the same team. We need to work together. If we want to go far, we go together. If we want to go fast, go alone. So we have to also be accountable while we're doing all these collaborations and give each other feedback, honest feedback. If we just think that it's just a matter of sitting on panels and not being seen, we have failed. What are we using these platforms for? We should use these platforms to go beyond and implement and bring others along. And I'm just saying this is just for us to make sure we build together. We have to be sustainable. And that's for me as a chamber right now. I've thought about all the work I've done over the years, especially seeing what has happened with USAID and Prosper Africa. We have to think of alternative sources of funding. We have to be creative and think of how we create funding sources for us. We can't wait for government. There has to be a collaboration, whether it's with the public sector and the private sector, and we shouldn't just keep pointing fingers. So anyway, that said, with the chamber, I'm focused on making sure the members, institutions, and funders, because we need institutions for us to progress, because institutions outlive us. And then individuals can also be part of the digital part of things for us to work together. And that's why we like platforms like Elevate Africa, also the mainstream platforms like maybe Time Africa, but we have to be able to tell our stories. Until a lion begins to tell its stories, you'll glorify the story of the hunter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Busi. Thank you. Thank you. I'm enjoying this conversation, and I wish that it can go on, but for the sake of time, so we are going to close this session, but I'm going to give you each 30 seconds. I'll start with you, Moki.
30 seconds to do what? Actually, I just want to address something that Busi said, and actually everyone's referred to funding. Funding is absolutely critical, and making entertainment or the creative sector viable as a business is important. But if you think about countries like America, a lot of Europe, the way the creative economy was formed there was actually not business. It came from philanthropy. If you look at a lot of artists and films that were funded not because they made money, but because the message was important, which is why I think that we, as people in the creative economy, we also have to look to philanthropic funding. I always give the example of, this series, Will and Grace. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Will and Grace did more for the LGBTQI community in America, led to same-sex marriage legislation in America because of an entertainment series. And that's what I'm saying, that television, content, films can do more, much more than just entertain. And when they do that, funding sources open up. So that's the point I want to leave us with. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to double down on what Moki has just said. Funding is very important. Philanthropy funding is very important. But these will allow us to tell our stories, and these stories will resonate across the globe. Our young must be involved to be able to tell these stories. Education must happen so that the next generation of filmmakers, from carpenters, from technicians, from scriptwriters, all are in a place to take the industry one step beyond. But that can only happen through education. That can only happen through some form of either government intervention or philanthropic funding. So we must all get on board with that sort of idea. The next generation is going to be very important. They're going to be our storytellers. They're going to define and rewrite our history for us in the way that we want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we please stick to 30 seconds?
Sure. In terms of the next generation, I agree with that sentiment as well. I believe that those of us who are walking through doors or kicking them down, it's important for the next generation for us to pull them through and lead them through those same doors for more of a commercial aspect. That the next billion and trillion-dollar companies will be in Africa, so it's important to take those along with us, more importantly, the youth.
Thank you.
Thank you. I pray for a borderless, creative continent. I don't want creativity to wait for visas before content is being disseminated around Africa. Yeah. It's time for us to collaborate. Botswana is a beautiful place. I want to come back here and shoot a film. Yes. I want to learn the language. You know, Gialarata, Botswana. So I also want you to come home to Nigeria. Let's collaborate. These air-conditioned conversations are nice, but we need to visit different parts of this beautiful continent and tell our own story. God bless you.
I think the fact that the Osahon Kumba Foundation sponsored this panel is actually philanthropy in action. And I think that the more that we partner with other countries and other funds, I think that's how we sit together and that's how we collaborate and that's how we move the needle forward. I think messaging is important. Messaging is everything. And so if we can come together, Africa No Filter, the Osahon Kumba Foundation, your fund, you know, there's so much that we can do. So I think it's incredible that we can say that today we're actually doing that.
Thank you. We have 21 seconds left. Kayla?
I will just say for Africa to strike while the iron is hot, because Africa is very hot right now. We see Afrobeats has taken over the world, so if it can happen in music, it can happen in film, it can happen in television, and just to continue to tell those stories, the narrative is already there, so we already see the changing face of Africa, and I know Black Americans love getting here, going to Dirty December in Nigeria and Ghana, so to continue that and continue the messaging abroad, I think the time is now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Funding is important. That's how philanthropy happens as well, when there's funding. And it's important to build and strengthen our ecosystems. We have to be intentional about growing together and investing in ourselves and investing in others. Africa, we are the ones we have been waiting for. Pula.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have came to the end of the session. I just want to say thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you.
Such an amazing panel. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a huge round of applause. Could you kindly? I'd like to invite you for a picture. Let's capture this historic moment in conversations about Africa's cultural capital and human capital. How do we leverage that? How do we bring that together and make sure to the value of the continent?
Absolutely. And when I think about the many times that I'm strolling in malls in the US, in New York, and I hear Afrobeats and how proud that makes me as an African. But I think as the panel clearly articulated, the next step is for us to monetize, to figure out disruptive and innovative models of monetizing our influence. So thank you so much to this incredible panel, really great takeaways.
Let's give them a huge round of applause.
Great job, great job.
They did an exceptional job. And one thing that they did say is honesty is key. How we make this work becomes very important. And being honest about how we're going to make it work becomes critical.
Absolutely. So we're going to break for a quick coffee or tea break.
Quick. Underline quick. Okay? Operative word, quick.
And what we would love for you all to do is actually grab your coffee or tea and come right back in here for our next panel, which is on sustainable infrastructure for economic transformation. And you already know that's going to be another great conversation. So just step out there, grab your coffee, tea, and come on right back.
Let's try and do it in 15 minutes so that as you grab your coffee, you can return into the hall so that we can move on with our program. Thank you so much for being an amazing audience.
Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Pasetuna e kholo e lo re ngwana le gape thola re dira re kopana le batho bore bana marapo kgotsa kapa jone bokgoni ja go kgona re tsholetsa kapa bone go re dira company la jangwa sa butsa la mpitsa tema bitsa le soto le ntshubutshubutsi le ke mile re telele ke ka go thugamo ka riso mo matshelo la tshela proof is in the pudding ala yale living in the night no ka e beto I am ma tupa ga di tutra ga phata bo hele tsa saka tuka ketelele tona tona ga ke thanye logile malepo this is like my website very territorial ketelele tona 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 all up in the area you say the name the name rapola ga sana na posa ga metsi se tampore sa sa rona KT wa ga motse temo ta dipula motsale di seretsa khamakwi bwa maru re thinya tsebe nyorilwe le nyora le le bo right thipa e thaba e thipa ke ngwana ga no le nyora o nyoretse le pele putse le le ntshela ga go tse pero bala ngwa go mashoro le puti mili mpotse gore go ka teng pasetna go le talang diri italo ga nyoretse tse ga re pele le nne tsile tapi Liveli Pilma
let's use this quiet now and just test them. On, yeah, so the way, let's do the test. And hear it out.
You want them all on stage now?
No, I mean now, let's just test them and can hear them from 1 to, from 1, yeah. So do the test like real quick, 1 to 10 or whichever numbers we have left. Yep. They've made you into a sound engineer.
I'm a sound engineer.
Top one. Give you a certificate.
Check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check.
Ga ke tsere sentle fa ke sa buisiwe sentle. Le re thopele mahoko, le re thopele mahoko, le re thopele mahoko. Na ya meto na keletse ne lo bona ba tla tšhelete. Le re thopele mahoko, le re thopele mahoko, le re thopele mahoko. Kopo ya me ke yone eo hela e leng wela. Le re thopele mahoko, a mahoko a diriswa thopipe. Le re thopele mahoko. Ke rata go menagane ha batho ba itumetse. A go tsweleleng go ntse jalo, a go tsweleleng go ntse jalo. Gobane pelo e lehutwa gape maduo a tle a go ka kwalong go gae. A go tsweleleng go ntse jalo, a go tsweleleng go ntse jalo, a go tsweleleng go ntse jalo. Pina ya molodi wone baby ga o re. A go nne go ntse go continue, a go nne go ntse go continue. I'm in my best behavior. Little to build in my hookah. 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 Kerata go menagane ha batho ba itumetse. A go tsweleleng go ntse jalo, a go tsweleleng go ntse jalo. Gobane pelo e lehutwa gape maduo a tle a go ka kwalong go gae. A go tsweleleng go ntse jalo, a go tsweleleng go ntse jalo, a go tsweleleng go ntse jalo. Pina ya molodi wone baby ga o re. A go nne go ntse go continue, a go nne go ntse go continue. Remember yourself, you're a conqueror, a warrior. That is very dangerous, that's who you are. Give it up to the most high God. Badimo ba me le bonela. O matuti pudi mo hitile tsela bentile ba rapela. I could have lost my life in an accident. Could have been cursed by a wizard. Despite all the odds against me, yes I violated. That's a mile when you go. The matela when you go. That's a mile when you go. The matela when you go. When you go. own hands, element of surprise. Fire and water, the land and the air. Pay close attention, got to be vigilant. Everyday life getting stranger than fiction. Represent me vocal, spiritual. Beat is bigger than me. I'm only just an employee. God hired me, you can find me. That's a mile when you go. 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 When you go.
Where you get the sauce, boy?
It's so very typical for people to choose to ignore the love that's pure and genuine, but rather focus on material. Totally none of anybody else's business. Even if the love of me life is the hideous or hideous, one thing that matters is kiss me, please fulfill me with your tender loving care. So take for instance, if you feel as if you miss me, or feel as if your strength is weak, then I shall always be there. Togo ya olonga ke tsusane ya le sonya ha logana la la busi o boro mo release and release and release. Tamo di mo ko paru release and release and release and release. Ko paru release. Tato le feri la gale feri. Tato le feri la gale feri. Release and release and release. 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 Release, 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 release and release and release. Tamo di mo ko paru release and release and release and release. Ko paru release. Tato le feri la gale feri. Tato le feri la gale feri. Release and release and release. Release and release and release. Particiso, disipila hala rato lili budipa. Yasuna mariki riki. Hawana motana male majaka na. Perasi bu isiketonki. Kama beri mautu kine kine. Una moto wawe wena uni wani ili mwana wame kabo yote jami kine kine. Sitendo pichanda ovo. Toro kaminaza haulo. Ingwa baile wabujole. Pupa me yengwa yala kurungutele botu. Kwa bon letago. Gaborone release, release, Gaborone release, Gaborone release and release and release. Time with him, Gaborone release and release and release and release. Gaborone release. Tato le feri la galiferi, tato le feri la galiferi. Release and release and release, 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 release and release and release. Time with you, Gaborone release and release and release and release. Gaborone release. Rato le feri la galiferi. Rato le feri la galiferi. Release and release and release. Release and release and release.
Spinguna popile mengia bagelela hope. Spinguna le madi mengia bagelela hope. Oh, talosa, pirisa. Kongole na bokhaisa di batalanta le umale. Ah, zere le umagari washini. Le vane ba gonyata sese ua pasami. Tamari vise luro nare tui kaki. Spinguna popile mengia bagelela hope. Spinguna le madi mengia bagelela hope. Oh, talosa, pirisa. But to Zivingi Harovali. Arona le juevali fituana. But to Zivingi Harovali. Arona le juevali fituana. But to Zivingi Harovali. Arona le juevali fituana.
Gentlemen, if you could please start making your way back to the auditorium, that would be great. We're going to get started in just under a minute. Please start making your way back. Thank you so much.
tried it and I quickly regretted it. So many underneath the table, shady deals and toxic relationships, trying to fly higher than most times. The sad, painful truth about the place that I come from. Everybody walking around wearing a mask on them. Although I might not be okay, A-Y-T-O-D-A-Y. More especially when things don't go my W-A-Y. That's because I got a P-U-R-P-O-S-E to fulfill.